In today's video, we're going to discuss the Sacramento Kings upcoming 2026 season, along with the outlook on the future of the Sacramento Kings. What will this team look like in 3 years? But before we get into it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Over 97% of you guys aren't subscribed, which is a real stat, by the way. So just help me out, quit hating. Also, I recently unlocked memberships on the channel. If you'd like to become a member, just hit the join button right next to the subscribe button. Thank y'all for all the support. I figured it'd be best to start off the video recapping the Kings offseason. In the 2025 offseason, the Kings signed point guard Dennis Schroeder to a 3-year, $45 million contract. In the 2025 draft, the Kings selected wing Nick Clifford 24th overall and center Maxime Reign at 42nd overall, along with trading their backup center Jonas Valanciunas to the Denver Nuggets for Dario Saric. They also lost Jake LaRavia to the Lakers on a 2-year deal, and Trey Lyles, who played 70 games for them last season, is still currently unsigned in free agency. So what do I think of the Sacramento Kings offseason, the trades, the draft, and the free agency? So first, I wanted to discuss the Jonas Valanciunas for Dario Saric swap. Last season at the trade deadline, the Sacramento Kings sent 2 second-round picks for Jonas Valanciunas, which seemed like a solid pickup because Jonas Valanciunas is one of the more reliable backup big men in the NBA. So in my opinion, it really makes no sense at all to trade 2 second-round picks for a guy that you're going to trade before the start of the next season for an even worse player. Now, I understand this was a salary cap related trade for the Kings. You trade Jonas Valanciunas, who was making $10 million, for Dario Saric, who's making $5 million. So what was the point of the trade to begin with? You end up losing 2 second-round picks and paying Dario Saric $5 million, and there's a chance he won't even be in the NBA next season. As for the Dennis Schroeder signing, I'm not a big fan of this one either. You decided to pay a 31-year-old point guard $15 million a season for the next 3 years. Might I add, last season, Dennis Schroeder played for 3 NBA teams. In 24 games with the Warriors, he shot 37% from the field, 32% from 3, and in 28 games with the Pistons, he shot 37% from the field and 30% from 3. While he actually did play fairly decent for the Pistons, especially defensively, he's still not worth $15 million a season for the next 3 years. And for a Kings team that lacks consistent three-point shooting and below average spacing with DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis sharing the floor, ideally you would like a point guard who can consistently knock down his threes. That is not Dennis Schroeder at this stage of his career. So am I saying Dennis Schroeder is going to be a flop signing for this team? Not necessarily. The Kings still needed a starting point guard, and Dennis Schroeder is still capable of being a starter in 2026, but I don't think he's a great fit for this starting lineup, and I believe he's also an overpay. Even if Dennis Schroeder plays quite well for you and you'd like to flip him, I don't know how many teams are going to be lining up to trade for a 32-year-old point guard making $15 million a season. So that could very well end up being a negative contract on the Kings books. As far as the draft goes, I actually really like the pick of Nick Clifford 24th overall. He's a rangy wing who ideally can knock down the 3 consistently and play solid defense on the perimeter. Now, with the Kings' lack of roster depth, I would expect Nick Clifford to get a good amount of opportunity in his rookie year. I don't know how reliable he'll be from 3 early on, but he should be at least a solid role player for this team for the next 3 seasons. And Maxime Reign, who went later in the draft than I thought he would, and many of the mock drafts had him going much earlier than he did. So the Kings got a steal at the 42nd overall pick. I hope they play Maxime Reign over Dario Saric and Drew Eubanks, who they signed. Max has real potential as a 7'1", 22-year-old center. So for the draft, I actually quite like their picks. I think they got good value out of their selections, but I'm not going to count on them to have immediate impacts for this team in their rookie years. So I'm going to be patient with them because there are holes on this roster that I wouldn't expect any rookie to come in and fix. Like the hole at backup center. Kings fans have been begging for a real rim protector to back up Domantas Sabonis for the last 3 years. This team has seriously struggled with their defense on the inside for as long as I can remember, and Maxime hopefully can develop into that guy one day, but I'm not going to count on it this year. Also, the hole at point guard. Dennis Schroeder might play okay for you, but I highly doubt he plays good enough on this team to be worth $45 million. You have Devin Carter as your backup point guard, who is the definition of an unproven player. The Kings selected him in the first round of last year's draft, and in Devin Carter's rookie season in 36 games played, he averaged 4 points per game, shooting 37% from the field, 29% from 3, and 1 assist per night. Now, given he didn't get very many minutes in his rookie year, but from what I've seen and from what most Kings fans have seen, I don't expect Devin Carter to be the starting point guard of the Kings for the next 3-4 years. And I don't think many other NBA fans do either. Devin Carter is ideally a guy who can play some solid perimeter defense, rack up some steals, and make some good passes. Will they are definitely going to be counting on him to do all of that this season. And if Devin Carter doesn't play up to expectations in his second year, then this team will probably be at the bottom of the NBA in assists. I'm going to remind you that the Kings last year drafted Devin Carter over players like Khalil Ware, Jared McCain, Yavis Misi, Keshawn George, Terrence Shannon Jr., all players that will likely be better than Devin Carter. And I don't understand the Kings' thought process on that draft pick at all, considering just a few years prior they drafted Davion Mitchell early in the first round, who was pretty much the same archetype to Devin Carter, and Davion Mitchell did not work out for the Kings. He was traded to the Raptors after only being a Sacramento King for 3 seasons. So what was the thought process there? I really don't get it. Let's take a look at some more problems I have with this roster. Paying DeMar DeRozan $25 million for the next 2 seasons. Last season, you acquired DeMar DeRozan via sign and trade in hopes of forming a more competitive team around De'Aaron Fox and convincing him to stay long term. Well, that didn't work. De'Aaron Fox still demanded out. He was traded to the San Antonio Spurs in a trade I'll get into in a bit later, but now you're left with DeMar DeRozan on your team, who's not a great fit, is 36 years old, and doesn't have much value around the NBA. So if you plan on trading him, who are you trading him to? What team in the NBA is giving you assets for a 36-year-old DeMar DeRozan? If there's any player I would expect to be traded from the Sacramento Kings, it would be Malik Monk. He's been in trade rumors for the entire offseason, and honestly, he's one of the few guys that I would like to keep around on this team. He's a dynamic shot-creating 2-guard, and he can play spot point guard minutes. But I guess there is some sense to trading him, considering you have Zach Lavine and Keon Ellis, who both play his position. In the De'Aaron Fox trade, the Kings received Zach Lavine, a 2025 first-round pick, which did not convey because it had protections, a 2027 pick via the Spurs, who will likely be one of the better teams in the West, and a 2031 pick from the Timberwolves, who have Anthony Edwards, who will likely be one of the best players in the NBA in 2031, along with 3 second-round picks. So needless to say, in my opinion, the Spurs quite literally fleeced the Kings. So the Kings end up with one of the worst contracts in the league in Zach Lavine, and a few measly first-round picks, which will most likely not be in the lottery. So that was not a good move by the Kings, and I don't think many people were hyping up the return for the Kings even when the deal happened. I think everyone was pretty much just shocked that the Spurs got a player like De'Aaron Fox without giving up anybody significant in their rotation and only one of their own future first-round picks. So now after this trade, you are stuck paying Zach Lavine $48 million for the next 2 seasons, along with DeMar DeRozan $25 million for the next 2 seasons, Dennis Schroeder $15 million a year for the next 3 seasons, and a player I have not even touched yet on this video, Domantas Sabonis, an average of $45 million for the next 3 years. So you'd think for a team lacking as much talent as the Sacramento Kings, maybe they'd have a ton of cap space. Well, no, they actually don't. No, they don't. And with Keegan Murray being on the last year of his rookie contract, along with Keon Ellis being on the last year of his deal, the Kings are going to have to spend even more money to stay afloat as an average to below average team in the Western Conference. I don't see the point in that thought process. I know the Kings have been one of the more embarrassing teams in NBA history, but that doesn't mean you settle for absolute mediocrity like the Kings have just done. Either way, when you take a look at this roster at face value, they're missing playmaking, they're missing rim protection, and they're missing consistent shooting. Those are 3 very important variables to being a good team in the NBA. And with the Western Conference being absolutely stacked this year, with the majority of the teams getting better in the offseason, I don't see the Kings following suit. So if the absolute best case scenario for your team is being the 8 to 10 seed in the West, and you're not even a young team or a cheap team, then you're just completely wasting your time. There are players on this roster that you could get legit value for. Maybe there's a team out there willing to take on Zach Lavine's contract. Malik Monk could definitely get you something on the trade market. Domantas Sabonis could bring you multiple first-round picks, but nothing of the sort has been done because the Kings are complacent and they're satisfied for where they rank in the West. A potential play-in team with some solid players, but nothing to be excited about for the future. But I don't want to completely dunk on this Kings team because I was really attached to that 2023 Kings roster. It was some of the most exciting basketball that I had seen in a long time. And the Kings were one of my favorite teams in the league to watch up until the De'Aaron Fox trade pretty much. And now it's like the identity of this team has just been nuked. It used to be a fast, free-flowing offense where everyone on the court eats, super up-tempo, getting out in transition. That's just not how the Kings play anymore because their roster is significantly older and you have no one to lead and initiate the offense effectively. I will say there are some keepers on this roster. I really like Keegan Murray. However, like I mentioned earlier, he is on the last year of his contract. If Keegan Murray is asking for high 20s up to $30 million per season, that's going to be a hard conversation to have because Keegan Murray is without a doubt the best defender on this team, but his offensive game hasn't necessarily improved the way we thought it would. From the jump of his career, he looked like a star. He broke the record for most most threes by a rookie in an NBA season. And his offense is somewhat stagnated. His percentages have actually gotten worse. So if the Kings decide to keep the roster that they have intact, they will head into next season with an even higher payroll and even more depreciation on their assets. I don't want this team to do the Chicago Bulls method, where they wait to trade their players years after they're peaking in value. You have Keegan Murray to pay. You have Keon Ellis, who you should pay and keep on this team. He's easily the best guard defender on your roster, and he's also a 40% three-point shooter. It'd be much more trouble than it's worth for the Kings to pay all these guys. They need to make decisions before it's too late to be salvaged. And with the way their offseason went, still being somewhat aggressive, keeping their trade pieces, inquiring with the Warriors on a Jonathan Kuminga trade, and giving a 30-year-old point guard $45 million, this team is looking to compete now. And I'm sure this team has a few fun games in them, maybe a good stretch. Regardless of everything I'm saying, Domantas Sabonis is still an all-star caliber big man, one of the best centers, rebounders in the league today. Zach Lavine is one of the more efficient shooters in the NBA. He's a walking 22 points a night, along with DeMar DeRozan, who still at age 36 can go out there and give you 30 points. So there is still a level of structure to this roster, but the foundation is weak. You're lacking nearly all the qualities that a successful NBA team has: defense, shooting, playmaking. The Kings are average to below average in all three of those categories. So yeah, I can't pretend to know where the Kings are going, what they'll look like next season, what they'll look like 3 years from now. It all depends on the direction that they take. And what I and probably 99% of NBA fans would tell you is that this roster is not good enough for postseason success. You have quite a small window with Zach Lavine and DeMar DeRozan being on 2-year contracts to just simply be an okay team in the West. The fans deserve so much better than the roster that they have assembled. And I would say the best case scenario for the Sacramento Kings is that they start off the season slow, they enter the trade deadline just outside the play-in race, and they sell off some of their assets, they shed their cap costs, and enter next offseason with a top pick in the draft, and enter next season younger, more exciting, more development to be witnessed. If you're going to be a bottom of the barrel team in the Western Conference as you stand today, why not have the cap space, the picks, to go along with some youth and potential on your team? The trade-off in your win-loss record between blowing this thing up and keeping it intact is probably not that significant, to be real. But anyways, that is going to wrap it up. If you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm a small channel just trying to grow. The support that you guys have shown over the last like 3 weeks has been crazy. I really do appreciate it, but until the next video, I'm out. Deuces.